right? You can absolutely make a lot of money and never make a difference, right? Now, I'm working hard to make sure that the money that I made wasn't in vain, and that, in fact, solar continues to scale and lots of other things continue to scale. But it's truly important that we actually face this problem head on to where we are. Because it's amazing to me how many companies say to me, Jigar, did you know that our sustainability practice is growing faster than any other practice within the business? I was like, that's fantastic. Tell me about it. Well, you know, we've got these fuel-efficient locomotives that are now deemed, you know, sustainability practice. We have this fuel-efficient whatever that's now deemed, you know, and I was like, look, I mean, you were going to sell locomotives and new buses regardless, right? The fact that you've made them green doesn't mean that they're incrementally bigger. You just reclassified them, right? And so now we all sit around and say, well, what happened to all those green jobs? What happened to all those green businesses? You know, like, we did all this work. We spent $80 billion, and we did loan guarantees, we did all these things, and what happened to them? And the answer is that we were never serious. We were never serious about this. It's amazing to me how many people come to me. I was just sitting next to the head of Adventist Healthcare, actually, on the Southwest Airlines flight out here, and we were just chatting, and he's like, you know, Jigar, we've got an energy efficiency team, and our CFO is heading this team, and we've got all these people, and I was impressed. I mean, yeah, they reduced their energy consumption by about 12% in the last 7 or 8 years. And he described to me where his energy costs really were. He was saying he's spending about $6 million a month, and you know, and I was just flabbergasted. I mean, the technologies that I can point to that are invented in 1985, that he could have invested with less than a 2-year payback to reduce his energy spend by 50% was staggering, right? But he was like, well, but you know, I need an off-balance sheet financial transaction. I have to educate this person. I have to educate that person. And my response is, look, I mean, you're not even close to being the first customer to do this, right? I mean, when I was at SunEdison, we did Walmart, Costco, Macy's, Whole Foods, Target, Staples, Walgreens. I mean, the whole 9 yards, right? State of California's centers. I mean, all these things. And so this isn't new stuff. I mean, I can get you into the right places, and you can do these things. But I think for a lot of these people, this is not core to their business, right? Saving water, figuring out how to save energy, all these things are not core to their business. And so when they actually turn to it, they're saying, well, you know, we're a cash flow heavy business. We're Johnson & Johnson. We've got these types of growth rates. And therefore, we now have the luxury of putting $100 million to the side and actually deciding to use that money internally to do renewable energy and energy efficiency. But if you're a group that, you know, runs an auto body shop or runs a set of, you know, auto dealerships or whatnot, I am 100% sure that you are never going to put $2 million to the side and say, we're going to create a revolving loan fund to do these technologies. So now the question is that what's the job of the local chambers of commerce and the National Chamber of Commerce in this area? And I think that really depends on what else you could be spending your time on, right? We're all busy people, and we all prioritize what it is that we spend our efforts on. I would submit to you that this is the largest wealth creation opportunity on the planet, that every single person who's actually studied this issue has said that there's actually trillions of dollars out there waiting to be picked, and that ultimately, if you believe, and I believe this, that we're in this no-win situation on the U.S. deficit and then local and state deficits and all these things, and you can't get unlimited federal dollars and other dollars in this country to help you get there, you've got to work with what you got, stuff that's cost-effective now that can scale. And so if you believe, like I believe, that this is the largest wealth creation opportunity on the planet, and you're a city who's sitting there saying, gosh, my jobs are just like, you know, completely drying up. I mean, you know, there's a couple of jobs here and a couple of jobs there that are being formed. What can I do as the mayor of Phoenix? Or what can I do as the mayor of this place or that place? Well, you know, I mean, IBM is in this room. There's other companies that Tom Siebel started, C3 and Hurrah Energy and all these guys. They're willing to bring you a couple $100 million tomorrow to actually, like, you know, put these things to work. And if you look at the formulas around job creation, it's something on the order of $200,000 of energy efficiency CapEx actually results in one full-time, you know, job for construction. I get it. That being said, but there's a lot of unemployment in construction. The housing market's not going very strong, and and the commercial construction industry is coming back very slowly. So I don't really see another place for you to spend your time other than this to actually get the biggest amount of leverage that you could get. I mean, in most cities around the country, for instance, over 30% of the water that it processes is wasted, right? That in fact, what happens is that there's so many leaks in the pipes because they're so old that it just leaks out and goes into the groundwater. So you don't lose it per se, but you lost all the energy and chemicals that you used to actually treat it, and then it goes back into the groundwater. And there's a lot of oil and gas company technologies that can fix that problem because they have all sorts of technologies to look for leaks and that kind of thing in their pipeline. And Ecologics is a great example that New Orleans has been using to solve this problem. And I ask people, well, how big is this on your radar screen? Well, I was thinking about doing another bond initiative and raising everybody's water bills by 50% to actually put this stuff in, as opposed to going in and actually solving this other problem. And, and I'm not faulting anybody for doing that, but the challenge is that we look at the opportunity set in front of us, and I think it's critical to note that we've done a great job, that the United States and that many other countries that are defined within the Western world context have done a great job. They've given everybody electricity, they've given everybody running water, they've given everybody a lot of things. We don't have a whole bunch of 4% growth rate things sitting around the corner that's just sitting there saying, let's do it. And for better or for worse, there's not a lot of people right now that are saying we're going to go back to the consumption economy where everyone's going to spend $500 for a handbag and bring this economy back. And so my sense is there's a lot of these opportunities. Just to give you a couple other examples, and I'd love questions from you guys in terms of figuring out how we actually implement this, but benchmarking. So there's a lot of companies in this room and then companies I've worked with around the world who think they're God's gift to the energy efficiency industry. I was talking to Valero the other day, and when I was at BP, we sold some of our refineries to Valero, and they're an excellent group. There's a group called MPC Energy, which is a 20-year-old company that basically has a thermodynamic model that's far more exact and far superior to a lot of the thermodynamic models out there. They just helped Valero save $190 million out of their refinery business in efficiency, just doing thermodynamic modeling. Cooper Tires, thought they were God's gift to the tire making industry. The best-in-class group in the tire industry uses 2,600 BTUs per passenger tire. They were at 6,600 BTUs per passenger tire. They're now back down to 2,600 because of proper benchmarking. There are literally hundreds of examples like this that we could do to actually do well by doing good. And so what I would suggest to you is that just one more example to give you a sense of how important all of these things are. In the growth of SunEdison, in 2004, we signed the vast majority of our initial customers. We started in 2003, but it took a little while to get people to come on board to what we were doing. It took us over a year and a half to sign a contract and with a financing company. Goldman Sachs came in with $60 million at a 17% interest rate for equity, and then the debt came in, I think, at 8.5%, which was pretty expensive for that time, given where interest rates were, but it was what it was. We got over the hump. The next investment time period was sort of the 2007 time period. We signed a deal with HSH Nordbank, MetLife, MassMutual, Wells Fargo, and really got the cost of capital down to around 8% unlevered for 20-year sale-leaseback type transactions. By the time I left SunEdison in 2009, we were at 5.6% interest 20-year sale-leaseback transactions because people are so convinced that this stuff is safe now and very low risk. And so what I would suggest to you is that one of the biggest challenges that we have as an industry in infrastructure is that we've just have absolutely no idea. Mainly, I think it's the entrepreneurs and the innovators versus the investors, what each other wants. And so, for instance, I've talked to entrepreneurs and large corporates, and most large corporates, what you find are experts in corporate finance. So they'll say, our credit rating is single A, so therefore our cost of capital is, whatever it is, 6% or 5.5%. And so when I say, well, we're going to do off-balance sheet financing using energy efficiency, it's going to be a 12% interest rate because the equity wants 18 and 19% because it's a new asset class, and the debt wants 6 or 7% for the cash flows that they think are very secure. They fall out of their chair. I'm not going to do anything then because, 12% unlevered, that's ridiculous. And I was like, well, great, why don't we use your money? Oh, no, we're not going to do that either. So I think the chambers of commerce can play a big role in setting expectations around infrastructure. The Civil Engineering Society, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers estimate that we're about $4.7 trillion short in infrastructure in this country. The money's there. I mean, there's, as many of you know, while looking at your stock portfolios, that a lot of folks aren't investing in the S&P 500 stock indexes anymore. So they're looking for other things to invest in. And so there's a lot of folks who have money to invest in these things and who want compelling rates of return. And the projects pay for themselves. And so I would suggest that there's a huge amount of talking past each other here where the investors are not actually willing to be very forthcoming around what it is that they need to be able to part with their money. And the corporates and the entrepreneurs are not willing to actually have a decent conversation around what their technologies can tolerate in terms of interest rates and that kind of stuff. And many of them can tolerate much higher returns than I'm suggesting. And the customer base is just, uneducated. One last example was I was talking to Cemex, and Cemex has this incredible facility down in Mexico, and they were saying, Jigar, you should give us an award. We've got a 120 megawatt wind farm that we're building down there, and this is amazing, and I'm really happy about this. And I said, well, yeah, but also on the benchmarking study, you're using 30% more energy per ton of cement than the Chinese are doing. So what are you doing about that? And they said, well, we looked at that, and it was only an 18% rate of return to actually do that, and our CFO won't invest in anything that's less than a 25% rate of return. And so we're not going to do that investment right now. And so I went back to them and I said, there's no way in hell the wind farm actually provided a 25% rate of return for you, so why are you doing that? So, oh no, the investment bankers came to us, that's an off-balance sheet transaction, all we're doing is paying 10% below what we're paying for electricity in Mexico, and so we have immediate savings, it's off-balance sheet, everything's fine. And but they did not put two and two together. When I talked to them, they didn't realize that they needed the same solution for their energy efficiency in their plant that they got for the wind farm. And so there's this huge miscommunication from huge companies. I mean, for those of you who don't know Cemex, they're one of the leading companies in the world on sustainability. I mean, attend a lot of these forums, have incredible programs that they're doing, doing a lot of great work. Their folks are amazing. But something so seemingly simple as those two projects and the differences between them was just not something that was apparent to them. It's not something you learn in MBA school. So with that, I'll shut up, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.